First story. My 29 MGF 27F wanted to open the relationship. I said no. She decided to open it anyway. I'm using this forum for the first time after stumbling upon it after I found out my GF of 9 years cheated on me. I'm not really looking for any advice on how to get the relationship back, as I am fully aware that the ship has sailed. Still, I find it very therapeutic to write about the experience and appreciate any support offered on how to move on. Note that this entire ordeal happened about a month ago, so the wound is still relatively fresh. I guess the one issue that I am consistently struggling with is the infidelity itself. Having put my guard down and being betrayed by the person I love truly changed something in me. I have a hard time coping with the betrayal and the fact that she went back to her lover. More on that later. Let me start from the beginning, as I think it makes sense to add context here. My now ex-girlfriend and I have been together for 9 years, coming up to our 10th anniversary. We both met each other in high school and started seeing each other romantically during university and were essentially each other's first. During this entire time, our lives were bliss, but we had an issue of being in a long-distance relationship, as we both went to universities in different parts of the country. Nevertheless, distance was never an issue, and we made every effort to see each other as often as possible. Fast forward to about 8 years into our relationship, and we were able to finally find a way to live together in the same city and moved in together. I was overjoyed, and while there were some minor hiccups during the first few months, everything worked out. Throughout our entire relationship, however, I had always received comments from close friends and family that they felt the relationship was unbalanced. The issue that they had highlighted to me was that they felt I was always the one giving 110%, while she essentially was going along for the ride. I was the primary breadwinner. I cooked, I cleaned, and basically ran the entire household. Truth be told, I never did mind being the pillar she could rely on, as it fulfilled me. She came from a relatively broken home where her parents had divorced at an early age, and both were desperately trying to find love without much success. To put matters into perspective, the mother was always a tad jealous of her daughter given how well I was treating her. In her eyes, I had some ulterior motive, but I digress. Back about 1.5 years ago, my girlfriend had suddenly confronted me out of the blue during a car ride to a bowling game that she felt sexually unhappy, and that before settling for marriage, she would want to try out new experiences by opening the relationship. This statement hit me like an absolute truck. She had managed to dismantle my masculinity and put into question our entire relationship in a time span of 5 minutes. In hindsight, my reaction was definitely too aggressive. I was shocked, hurt, and confused, so I raised my voice and was on the verge of tears, asking her what more I should be doing in this relationship. Mind you, I was putting in a ton of effort into exploring our sexual lives. I read books, tried new things, and always was looking to spice things up, but, like in the household, I was doing most of the work while she basically sat back and waited to be sexually gratified. We ended the conversation in the car with an agreement that we would not open the relationship, and that we would both try our best to figure out how to work through this problem. We had sex more often and tried out new things, but this conversation came up again in passing about half a year ago, but again, minimal effort in bringing up this topic and no consideration to my feelings whatsoever. I told her outright that if she felt so strongly about this topic, which I can totally reconcile, we should have a clean breakup and simply reconnect sometime down the line, but that there would be a risk of us developing feelings for new people. The idea that I would be giving myself to someone new shattered her, and the discussion ended there. At this point I'm thinking, okay, we clearly have this issue, but we are working through it. Every other part of the relationship is working incredibly well, and if we put our minds to it, we'll also manage this problem. Fast forward to about 1.5 months ago. My girlfriend had decided to go with a friend of hers to Monaco, and while I always fully trusted my girlfriend, her going on a girls' trip with this particular girl didn't sit right with me. This friend of hers is a sex worker, and I want to be fully clear that I am not judging her for her line of work. Still, she has demonstrated to me on numerous occasions that her views on relationships, as a result of her profession, were completely unaligned with mine. Nevertheless, I trusted that my girlfriend and I were on the same page, so I had nothing to worry about. The trip ends, and she comes back home super happy and wanting to plan our next vacation to Monaco. Again, nothing out of the ordinary yet. A week later, I head to a one-night business trip and get a call from my girlfriend as I arrive at the hotel. She starts off the conversation by saying that our discussions about the open relationship never faded away and that while in Monaco, she met a person that she wanted to go out for drinks with, just as a flirt. I am shocked and completely taken aback, but I find the strength to gather myself. I tell her that I understand her urges and that I can be the bigger man and approve of her going to drinks, but that there would be absolutely no sexual contact. She promised me that nothing would happen and that we would end the discussion. Of course, I can't sleep all night. I see her going on and off WhatsApp at 3 in the morning, so I try calling her to no avail. I somehow fell asleep for a few hours and woke up the next day desperately trying to contact her. Eventually, she picked up, and I told her that she needed to come clean me. I'd had a bad feeling all night and that she owed me an answer. What she said next completely broke me. She said she slept with him, but that it meant absolutely nothing, and that we should talk about it when I got back home. I broke up with her in that instant. I fly back home and sleep on the couch to gather my strength to discuss the matter in the morning. In my mind, I knew that there was no going back, but that I needed to confront her one last time. I had a complete emotional breakdown. When I say I was crying, I mean really crying, a real guttural cry that I never had done before. She didn't shed a single tear but was incredibly remorseful. Side note, she always had a very hard time expressing her emotions. I told her that I was going to fly to my parents and that she would need to move out. For the next week she sends me incredibly long and heartfelt messages of encouragement, engaged her mother to try and reconcile the situation and promises never to see that man again. During this entire time I told her that all of this is too little too late, that I can't trust her, and that I want to move on, but that there might be time for reconciliation somewhere down the line if she promised me to work on herself in the meantime, which included not seeing this man again. Fast forward to today and I head back to our flat as she has since moved out. I started crying remembering the ghosts of the past. All our memories that we made together in this home of ours seem like a lie, and while I need to face the music, it still hurts to forget the past. Here is where things take an even darker turn. As I arrived at the flat, a good friend of mine calls me and tells me that he had heard that my girlfriend went back to seeing the guy that she cheated on me with and that this was going on pretty much ever since we broke up. Although I could stomach coming back to the flat, the news of her returning to him completely floored me. After claiming that she wanted to rebuild the relationship and was incredibly remorseful for what she had done, she decided to do a 180 on her word. After cleaning up the flat a bit, I opened the laptop that we both shared. I found that she had not logged out of her account, and as if the universe wanted to tell me something, her WhatsApp had opened to the chats she was having with this person, and the rumors were immediately confirmed. I didn't snoop long because I knew of the harm I was causing to myself, so I deleted her entire account off of the laptop after a few minutes. All this happened just 2 hours ago, and I'm trying to get this knot out of my stomach by simply writing about it and talking to friends and family. I was able to move on while I was staying with my parents, but this new information feels like I've been dropped yet again into the deep end. My stomach is constantly turning knowing that she gave herself fully to this person, that she knew for only a few weeks, and that she went back to him for more while throwing everything we built up together right out the window. Sorry for the long write-up, but I really needed to get everything off my chest. How do people who are betrayed move on with the knowledge that the person you had built a life with decided to move on with their lover? The feeling of inadequacy is overwhelming, and although I always considered myself to be a confident person, this life event has changed me completely. How do I regain my sense of self? Any help is truly appreciated. Update. Before deleting her number and blocking her everywhere, I confronted her via WA about me knowing everything about what happened post-breakup. Again, I am fully aware that we broke up, but over the past weeks I was under the assumption she would try to make amends by showing some growth in her character. Wishful thinking, I know. Like a deer in the headlights, she started denying things, but I had conclusive evidence that she had no intention of fixing her mistakes. Eventually she fessed up, but went on an odd rant about how there were things that weren't working in the relationship. I assume she is referring to the sex, but I find this odd attempt at gaslighting me to be quite humorous. The psychological profile of her undoing is slowly starting to crystallize in my mind. This man she has been seeing is nearly twice her age and could easily be her father, who by the way was barely in the picture and only showed affection by sending her money. I'm no therapist, but it almost seems as though she never came to terms with the fact that she didn't have a father figure growing up, and is now trying to find a substitute in this old, quite frankly repulsive, man. Second story. My story of being cheated on. Reading some of the posts on here breaks my heart. Seriously. But I wanted to give my perspective of the last time I was cheated on. For starters, I've been cheated on in almost every single relationship I've ever been in. Some might look at that and say, well, obviously it's your fault then if it happens every time, but I don't think that's fair. I'm not perfect, but I am a damn good boyfriend, and I've never cheated a day in my life, nor would I ever consider it. My latest relationship, I'm confident I was cheated on, but I can't prove it. But the signs are all there. I don't want to get into it because the story I want to talk about is even more heartbreaking. I was with this girl for about 6 months and things were going really well. Fell in love, stayed the night with each other routinely. We're on the precipice of moving in together. All good things. She had this friend, a guy she called her best friend. Guy named Ian, and she wanted us to meet. So we made plans to do so. Went to Buffalo Wild Wings, ordered food, drinks, watched football. This dude was an hour late. Shows up, hugs my girlfriend for a long time, hardly acknowledges me, and, my favorite, takes a water bottle he's spitting his dip in and puts it smack dab middle of the table. Mind you, we'd already eaten. I'd had a few beers, because you know it's been a fucking hour. This douchebag grabs a menu and orders an entire thing for himself. Then he spends the of our interaction speaking to my girlfriend and only my girlfriend. I just watch football because he's clearly keeping me from the conversation and monopolizing the entire thing with inside jokes and giggles with my girlfriend. He does at one point ask me what I do for work, and I tell him, to which he smugly smiles and looks at my girlfriend again. Like, okay? You sell weed, you fucking loser, but whatever floats your boat. After the meal he expects my girlfriend to pay. I pay the other half. Well, he just dicks around on his phone. Once we leave he gives my girlfriend another inappropriate hug, and holds her close at one point like he's about to kiss her. I was actually prepared to hit him, but nothing came of it. Once we're in the car she asks me what I thought of him and I just unload the spit bottle. Being an hour late, ignoring me the entire time, flirting with her. She admitted that a few things he did were kinda fucked up, but he's my best friend. He's not going anywhere. I tell her that he's clearly into her and jealous of me, which, as girls often do, goes, don't be silly, he's like a brother to me. Fast forward a month. It's almost Christmas. My girlfriend's mom throws a party at her house and invites who else but that pile of shit Ian. tells my girlfriend he's better for her than me and that they should be together. In a Snapchat on her story it looks like she's sitting on his lap and I snap. I call her out on the whole thing, which she shares with her family, so I look controlling and crazy, and that it was just a weird angle. The Snapchat, by the way, was her wrist and his wearing friendship bracelets because he's moving states. I told her she needs to come to my house immediately so we can have a serious talk. She downplays everything and thinks I'm overreacting and that he's moving to Colorado soon, and her mom wanted them to hang out one last time. I have no way of knowing if anything happened between them that night. But fast forward another week. I am at her house. She fell asleep on the couch, so I carried her to bed. I set her phone by her bedside table and a text pops up. From Ian. I can't believe how much these bracelets help, babe. I go cold. Literally feel like I've been dipped in a pool of ice. I wake my GF up and show her the text. She acts all confused at first until I say let me see the rest of them. She procrastinates, saying can I call him first? I don't know why he would say that. Oh, I can think of a reason. I say no, let me see the texts, and she unlocks her phone and hands it to me, her head buried in her hands. I start going through the messages. I see heart emojis, kissing faces, babe and baby used numerous times. I didn't read them specifically because it hurt so much, but I threw the phone at her and said yeah, we're done. She starts screaming, borderline hysterical. She was hysterical. I actually called that piece of shit Ian, and he answered all jolly till he heard my voice. Know what he said? Yeah, you don't need to call me from her phone. Fucking douchebag. Told him he could have her. Next text that came in was call me when he leaves HA. Meanwhile my girlfriend is on her knees begging for forgiveness. I just unload on her, because I was right the entire time. Cautionary tale. Folks, sometimes your gut is correct. I called up a buddy and he picked me up in less than 20 minutes. Third story. Lots of recent traumas and I'm not sure I'm thinking clearly. I spent the last year trying everything I could to save my marriage when I could barely understand why it was in such jeopardy to begin with. It even got to the point where she wrote me a letter telling me she was going to pursue divorce. Yet I persisted in my efforts despite that, but when things finally started to look like it might actually work out, D-Day happened. Distressingly, she only told me because I asked explicitly, directly, and broadly if she had ever been with anyone else since we got together. It happened 5 years ago, 2 years into our marriage. I never suspected a thing and was embarrassed to ask her the question because it felt insultingly accusatory. Now I'm not sure if I will be able to love this person who hurt me so badly again. Not because I don't want to, but because cheating is literally the only thing I have ever believed I could never forgive. Part of my struggle is that my reaction response to the news is not at all what I expected. This is the first time I've ever been in the position of knowing someone I was with had cheated on me. So I am skeptical of my decision to try to reconcile when I made it less than a day after learning the news. I am also not sure I trust that my wife is in a position where she is actually being honest with herself. For example, when I asked her what she was thinking when she did what she did, she told me she wasn't thinking, which I think is a pretty BS attempt at avoidance on its own, but, also, emo, is directly contradicted by her telling me that the known purpose of their meeting up was to have sex. Originally she told me it was a single event just once, and when she called it an affair I pushed back, saying that the word affair makes me think of something more involved than what it sounded like she was describing. However, when I asked more questions the other day, after hearing what she said, I am feeling more inclined to say I do think what she did crosses the threshold of what I'd consider an affair. In addition to the issues with my wife, first wanting to leave me and then confessing her affair, I started a new job recently. My father died a month after my wife moved out of our house, and my mother's cognitive decline has reached a point where I no longer feel I even still have her, and, as a result, I feel like I am grieving the loss of two parents. My wife has told me she has no secrets and is an open book now, that she's committed to our relationship, and understands how hard this must be for me. However, today is D-Day plus 37 and we've had just a few conversations directly addressing this issue, and she's already saying she's scared I won't ever be able to get over this, and that has me scared that she may already be establishing the basis for excuses that would allow her to feel validated in giving up on our marriage. Again, I'm seeing two therapists currently, and will be calling a new marriage counselor to set up an appointment today. So I don't think there is really any more I can do from a seek professional help perspective. So I would love some feedback from this community. Let me know if I left out any important details and I'll provide answers. Thank you for reading.